Hi, hello everyone. I think we finally have enough for a quorum so we can get our meeting started. Please remember that this meeting is being recorded, and thank you to all of the guests and presenters who are here tonight as well. So we'll just jump right into things. I'd like for DAB folks to take a look at the meeting minutes from April. Let us know if you have any comments or revisions on that. If everything looks okay, could I get a motion to approve those meeting minutes, please?
I motion to approve those minutes.
Thanks, Anusha. Do I have a second? Monijay, second?
I second.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Any opposed? Great. Looks like those minutes are approved. Thanks so much. Now we'll move on to public comment now. Alexis, I think we probably have a few folks here for that.
Yeah, maybe if we could just have, if everybody who would like to say something could just either raise a hand or put a quick message in the chat so we know how many people we're accounting for. I know that we have Janine here, and we also have Ashley raising a hand. Are any of the other guests tonight hoping to speak? All right, well, let's just start with those two and then go ahead and we'll do one last call for speakers. So Janine, would you like to go first? And then we'll have Ashley right after you.
Yes, thank you. Janine Rustad, the planning manager with the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. Hi, we are here tonight to ask for a letter of support for 3 projects that we are submitting to Senators Wyden and Merkley. It's exciting. It's the first time in 10 years that we have federal earmarks, and all of these projects are trails, which are our hardest projects to fund. The pandemic has shown just how important trails are to our community, with over double the use of these free amenities. As we expect to come out of this pandemic, trails are going to be important also for a safe alternative to driving. So I do have maps with where each of these projects are. If you want me to share that, I'm a visual person. That usually helps me. What's your preference on that?
Visual.
Okay. So let me share. Hopefully you're seeing that now. Someone give me a thumb. Yep. Okay. I see a nod. So the first project, and this is our priority project, because we do have to let the senators know our priorities, is a Beaverton Creek Trail from the West Side Trail and the Nature Park to Hawken in Beaverton. The money, the $1.5 million we're asking would go towards the engineering and construction, and it would fill a budget gap that we currently have in this project. Let's see, I'm trying to get my slides to change. The next project is also for engineering and construction of the West Side Trail from 158th and Walker up to Northwest Greenbrier. And actually a small portion of this is already going to get constructed with the county's road improvements. And we have a grant for we are anticipating a grant for the design of this trail, and this additional funding would allow us to move immediately from design into construction. And then the third one is the Waterhouse Trail. So Sunset Highway is to the south here. This would be to widen this trail, which is very substandard right now to our 10-foot width standard, and then provide the curb cuts for these 4 street crossings. Right now, you have to, if you're riding your bike or you have the stroller, you have to get it over the curb. So that is I'm trying to hit the stop sharing. We're asking again for your support of these projects. It's going to be a very competitive process, and support from organizations such as yours will go a long way. And I'm here to answer questions, and I can stay throughout the meeting.
Thanks, Janine. I actually have a quick question. I heard you mention 1.5 million. Was that just for the Beaverton Creek Trail project, or was that for all three?
Sorry, that's 1.5 per project. That was the max of what we could ask for. So we figured we'd ask for the max because it is important funding for us.
So this is Manager. Thank you for the presentation. The total will be 4.5. Am I right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But again,
Okay.
we do have to give them our priorities. So if we get one through, we'll be very happy.
Thank you so much.
Monica, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't have any input really, but what I want to say is, thinking about this project is, I never thought about the trails being a connection. For me, the trails were a place to walk, a place to go and do your walks or bike riding. And it is so important because realizing that beside that, it's a connection between communities from one place to another. So I think it's very worth it, this project. And I think we should be supporting this.
Thank you.
Janine, did you see the question in the chat?
How many other boards, committees, or commissions? So on the House side, and we've asked again, we had letters of support from the city of Beaverton and Washington County. We were not successful. There were more constraints on the House side. So now on the Senate side, we so far have secured, we're promised the city and the county, still waiting, but the Washington Transportation Alliance, we've asked the Audubon Society, and a few more letters have come in today, and I can't remember them all. I can email you the list of what we've received so far. It's been one of those days, it's hard to keep track.
Thanks. Are there any last questions for Janine before we move on to our next guest?
Oh, I actually just also saw, how does the Diversity Advisory Board fit into your ask? I have more detail on each of these projects, and especially our top two choices serve diverse communities. And so we want to hear from those voices. We're hoping to get those voices to our senators. Holly Thompson, our communication director, is also going to coordinate on a short video with community support. So these are projects, again, especially those first two, that have received a lot of community support. So that's why we're coming to you. The one north of the highway, the Waterhouse Trail, is one that between us and the county, we get a lot of calls from.
I think Councilor Soucie had a question. There's another question in the chat for you after that. Oh, no question for Councilor Soucie. Okay, then there is one more in the chat for you.
For projects that we have ready to go into construction, which is why we're asking on these three, we did not have any south of Farmington Boulevard. But one thing about Beaverton Creek Trail is that is going to get you from the West Side Trail from transit. It goes by transit stops to very close to downtown Beaverton, which we all see the wonderful place that downtown Beaverton is turning into, the performing arts, making those connections, as was pointed out. I'm a Beaverton resident, so seeing downtown excites me.
Thanks so much, Janine. And just to kind of reiterate for the DAB members who are here tonight, we have been asked to provide a letter of support, and that template for that was provided to us earlier today. So if you haven't seen that, please check your email, take a look. We are going to return to this at the end of our meeting today to discuss it with whatever remaining time we have. But for now, we do need to move on to our next guest speaker. So thank you, Janine, for being here and sharing that information about those projects.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Hartmeyer-Prigg, and I'm running for Beaverton City Council Seat 1. I've grown up in Beaverton my entire life, and I've seen Beaverton change and grow. Just like Janine said, right, we've seen downtown become a destination. I've seen severe weather that never occurred when I was younger, and we've all seen the city be resilient through this pandemic. I'm currently the chair of the board of directors of the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. And at THPRD, we've seen the importance of regional relationships. We've seen the importance of government acting in service to the people. And I believe my leadership experience at THPRD has prepared me to serve on the city council. We passed an affordable housing policy that will help bring over 600 affordable units to the area. We partnered to host shelters for people experiencing homelessness in our spaces during COVID-19 closures. And we created a new naming process for parks and trails to truly reflect the rich diversity of our community. I'm here this evening because I know how important your work is in advising the city. And I want to thank you for your work on the 2020 DEI plan and for making Beaverton a more equitable place. I'm committed to this work as well. We've been living our values at THPRD, and this past year, we put an emphasis in our budget priorities on racial equity. I hope to earn the voters' confidence on May 18th, and I look forward to working with your board if I'm elected to the city. So I just wanted to come here tonight to introduce myself.
All right, and I think I don't see anyone else that wants to speak, Rachel, so I'll leave it back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Ashley, and thank you again, Janine, for being here tonight. We appreciate that. Looks like it's time for cultural sharing, and I believe Ahmed is providing that for us tonight. So go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So I think we have guests. I need to introduce myself. My name is Ahmed Zabedi. I'm originally refugee from Iraq, from Baghdad. I moved to the United States in 2014. Now I'm proudly, I can say I'm American citizen. And today I want to share with you this hat. So this hat is created in Iraqi kingdom in 1921. So the first person created was King Faisal the first, and when he arrived, or he being the king for Iraq kingdom at that time, he saw the Iraqi people was divided between the Arabic customs and the like old Turkish, we call it tarbush. So or Iraqi they call it Karenna because it was made on Asteria at that time, so they call it Karenna. So he wanted to give them a new ID with their customs, formal customs, not Arabic customs. And he tried to make them union with one custom. And he created this, it's handmade. And everyone, he's educated or he wearing suits, he need to wear it. And that started in 1921, and he started to push people, especially the prime minister, all the ministers, and push them, and even he give them some money as a gift if they start to wearing this, to make it as a fashion or like official customs. And day after day, people they start to wearing, even they start to call it Al Faisaliya. Because Faisal the King Faisal he created. And now after almost like 100 years old, people, they start to wear it as to remember those days while when Iraq was a good, like from the first third countries to develop at that time, like with education, health system, everything. So I'm proud I have one. It's made in 1930. It's my grandfather one, and my uncle, he handed to me. I asked him to borrow it to wear it on my graduation ceremony at the college, and I keep it. I hide it from him, and I told him I lost it. And now after 17 years, I told him like, hey, I lied. I still have it, and it's now with me in the United States. So it's handmade. It's made in London, and now this one is very old. I wear it last year when I been the MC for Beaverton night market, night number 2. So I love it. Even some people now, when we have any activities or any occasion in Iraqi community, when I wear it, everybody, like you can see everybody smile, because many people, they remember that days and how much Iraq was great at those days. And people, sometimes they laugh, sometimes they tell me jokes. Like they told me, like, from which old movie you jump into this event today. But I love it, I like it, and I believe one day I will hand it out to my son as a part from our culture, and we're proud of it because those Faisaliya or Sidara is a part from Iraqi culture and Iraqi history. Thank you. If anybody have an answer, I can like ask about it, because this one has a philosophy. Like it's a, like I believe King Faisal, he tried to do like Napoleon did when he created the hat with the 3 head to make it as a symbol for the revolution. Because like King Faisal, he tried to pull Iraq from, you know, those old days, and with all modern, and with his relationship with Great Britain at that time, he tried to make or to build modern Iraq. So I think that's the philosophy behind it. And again, if anybody have any question, I will be more than happy to answer it.
Thanks, Ahmed. That was wonderful.
Thank you. By the way, the young people, they wear it like this on the side. That means, you know, they are, sorry for that, but not playboy, but the boy, like he have like relationship and he drink alcohol. But the official people, they wear it in the middle, and showing respect to take it off when you been in with your boss, or like someone he's in your as employee, he's higher more than you when you meet him, or like when you see any female or something like that. And even army at that time, when they created the first army to Iraq in 1921, the king have an order to everybody in the army should wear it, like a beret or something like that.
All right. I didn't know there was so much I could learn about a hat. Well, looks like we are a little behind schedule, so we are going to move on to liaison reports, starting with Councilor Soucie.
Yeah, and I'll start by saying there's one really great thing about the design of that hat, which is that you can't turn it around backwards like a baseball cap. And so that's good. Just want to give real quick updates because I know we are a little bit behind time. The 2 main things that the council is dealing with this month are the process of hiring the city manager for the city, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. And we are beginning our formal work on the budget in about a little over 1 week. We will be addressing the budget for the Beaverton Urban Redevelopment Agency next Tuesday night. And then starting Thursday, the 20th, we'll have our first of our 3 meetings on the city budget. And those are all evening meetings. They're all going to be done by Zoom. If you're really interested in the gory details of Beaverton's budget, you're welcome to tune into the Zoom meeting or watch it later. The budget document will be posted for public viewing and reading sometime in the next couple of days, I think. I haven't seen it yet, so we are all waiting to see that. There are many, many, many pages of detail in there that we have to go through. So pretty much the next couple of weekends are going to be spent with that information, trying to digest everything so that we can generate the appropriate questions and bring them forward for final discussions with the budget committee. The last meeting of the budget committee on this year's budget will be Thursday, the 27th. And then the budget committee's recommendation will go to the council in the middle of June for final adoption. We have a council meeting tomorrow night, which is largely focused on nuts and bolts stuff, a lot of public works material, a number of items relating to the Patricia Research Center for the Arts. And we're going to have a visit from our good friends at Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, giving an update on the status of the district currently. But other than those kinds of things, it's city manager and budget. So with respect to the city manager, I hope everybody has already seen or heard or received by email or social media the invitation to participate in the public forum with the 2 finalists, which I think is scheduled for Thursday evening. And everybody will have a chance to see their responses to questions. If you have an opportunity to submit questions in advance, they might be selected. There won't be a huge amount of time, but everybody will have a chance to offer questions if you wish. Members of the staff, the department heads, a couple of our internal organizations, the union organizations, and the internal equity team are going to have an opportunity to meet the candidates. The candidates will be physically here in Beaverton. They're going to get tours of the city. They'll get to see some things. I believe they may be visiting the Public Safety Center, gentlemen. We'll see. Hopefully you'll be nice to them. They'll be visiting City Hall, and there will be a bunch of other places. I mean, Beaverton's full of interesting things to see, and we want to make sure that the candidates get a good perspective on what Beaverton is, and hopefully get excited about the possibility of coming here to work. The city council will be interviewing the 2 finalists for the second time. We've already interviewed each of them once before. We'll have our second interviews on Friday of this week. And it is possible we will make a decision that same day. If we do make a decision, it may not be formally announced right away, because we then have to go into the process of negotiating the financial and logistical details with whoever gets selected. So it may take a little bit of time for the public announcement of who's going to be selected. But I can say that I have a lot of respect for both candidates, and I think we are going to get a city manager out of this, and it will be a city manager who will do good deeds for the city of Beaverton. With that, I'll stop, and if anybody has any questions about that or anything else the council is working on right now, I'm happy to take them. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councilor. It looks like we have Karenna here for an MYAB update. Karenna, are you ready to go?
Yes. So since we're wrapping up the end of the year for MYAB, because it follows like a school year schedule, all of our projects are pretty much wrapped up. We've been in a little bit of a transition with, we got a new staff liaison, and we are in the process of electing new officers for next year, and in the process of finding a new liaison for Emyab as I'm graduating this year. So those are all the updates. Nothing really new going on.
When is your last meeting with us, Karenna?
I told Alexis, I don't remember exactly which one I said though. It's someone in the summer, I think.
Okay. Thanks. We've enjoyed having you.
Yeah, I've enjoyed being here.
Any questions for Karenna, anybody? Okie doke. Thank you, Karenna. Teresa, do you have an HTAG update for us today?
Yes, one that's very brief. So it is the season of getting new city staff liaisons, I guess. So our city staff liaison, Emily Van Fleet Root, is transitioning from the Affordable Housing Program Coordinator. She said for giggles, applied to Washington County and was able to get hired on for their Affordable Housing Services Program, a new department that opened up, and they were doing a massive hiring for that department. So very happy to have another connection in Washington County. If anyone who is listening to this recording now or later knows sometimes how difficult it is to get the right people for affordable housing contacts in the county, you know someone who knows someone. So there's that. And we have a new liaison who is wonderful. Her name is Lisa. We're going to get to know her, and just a restructuring of what HTAG is going to focus on in our agendas for the summer and the remainder of this quarter, and get a little bit of structure in some new participants. We had some people leave last minute from the Housing Technical Advisory Group, and we're going to start having some of the project coordinators coming in and speaking with us. So now that all 4 projects are underway, that we can now receive status updates from people who are on the ground, developers, and people who have those contracts. So it'll be exciting to, from word of mouth, get to know what's going on, how the project is moving. Are we on budget, under budget, hopefully under budget, because it's tax money. So there's that. And we look forward to giving more information as it comes. That is all. Oh, one more thing, sorry, side note. So happy that Captain Wendell is healthy now, because we heard he wasn't. So yeah, looking at you, Paul. Yeah, glad you're healthy and well. You look good. So that is all.
Thanks, Teresa. Appreciate that. And it looks like it is Captain Wendell's turn, and another guest from the Beaverton Police Department is here to kind of give an overview of the bias-based policing report that came out for 2020. I know for those of you who attended our meeting last month, Lieutenant Stellingworth provided the link to it in the chat box, and so now we're actually getting a chance to kind of understand a little bit more about that report. So I'll turn it over to you guys to kind of give that overview.
Okay, I just wanted to hop on tonight, and I'll introduce Keith, and I won't take up too much time. Teresa, thanks for the kind words there. Yeah, I'm Lieutenant Stellingworth's off tonight. I'm still at home recuperating from surgery on a broken leg. That happened while I was hiking, so I still got a little ways to go. But I wanted to come on and introduce Lieutenant Keith Welch. He runs our professional standards and training division. So I don't have a specific report to give, but anybody have any questions for me, please feel free to do the chat room or email me. I'm starting to get back into the groove of work a little bit here. So without further ado, one last thing to know, Lieutenant Stellingworth is also trying to get it for the June meeting. The representative from the Oregon Crime Commission, who does all the bias-based policing stats, and I'll let Keith get into that, but he was not able to make it tonight, so Lieutenant Welch graciously was able to make himself available for this evening. So Rachel, that's it for me. I don't know if Lieutenant Welch is up next or not.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
All right, thanks. So like the captain said, Neil asked me to present on the bias-based police report that we publish every year. So I think the easiest way is just to bring it up on the screen and go through it. So I just want to make sure, is the Word document that says bias-based policing report up on the screen?
Keith, it was for a sec, but now we have your email up there.
Let me try. About now.
There we go.
Okay. So this is our 2020 report that is currently on our webpage. And it's made up of a couple different sections. And the captain talked about briefly that this also contains a report on the stop data, which I believe Neil is having someone in June talk about. I'll briefly go over it. It's at the end of this report. And I can answer some questions about it, but I think he's actually going to get someone from LECC who are experts in talking about that for next week. So the reason for this annual report, I think this top paragraph really summarizes it really well. The reason that we even publish this report is that we understand that communicating with the public and being transparent is very important. And so this is the document that allows us to do that on this topic. And that's why we make it available to the public. The first part of the report talks about our mission statement, our vision statement, and core values. And then for those of you that aren't aware, House Bill 2355 is some legislation that got a lot of the bias-based policing reporting going in Oregon in the last few years. And it requires police departments like ours to report to LECC on stop data, which started a few years ago. And then it also required us to do a profiling report every year, which I'll talk about a little bit down in the report. The next section are just some excerpts from our policy on bias-based policing. We coincidentally actually taught on this topic during one of our in-service trainings in the last year. And I want to draw your attention to, I think what's really important in policing is, this is the paragraph right here that I'm highlighting, 401.1.1 on bias-based policing. It talks about having an inappropriate reliance on characteristics, and then it lists out a bunch of those characteristics, as you can see. And what's so important about policing is to not do this. We cannot have an inappropriate reliance on any of these characteristics while we're policing. And we actually spent a lot of time with the students talking about what this meant and what it doesn't mean. And it's sort of a core of how we avoid bias-based policing. And here's some other excerpts, from our policy. It talks about that bias-based policing is prohibited. The responsibilities of each member follow this policy. Another important part of our policy, I think, is the reasons for contact. And it's the responsibility of the officer to be able to articulate sufficient reason for a contact. Society has given us authority in our communities to police them. So it's our responsibility to make sure we do that in an appropriate way. This next excerpt kind of outlines the stop data and what we have to collect. And again, that's at the end of this report, which I'll go over too. But it just lays out the data that we have to collect on stops. I think another important part of our policy is that we lay out supervisor responsibilities. It's an important concept in policing that supervisors have additional responsibilities to make sure that the department and the employees in the department follow policy. And then the next part of this excerpt is from our personal complaint procedure, and it just lays out how we handle complaints. There's basically two categories of, I guess three. There's informal, complaints, which that's something that usually a supervisor can handle on their own without making or conducting a formal investigation. And then a formal complaint is something that might come to me, for example. And it's a type of complaint that is serious enough, or there's a violation of a policy that we want someone besides the supervisor looking into it. I think what's important to understand about the complaints in our department, at least, and you'll see this down below, is that when we get a disparate treatment complaint, we always make it. We also can have incomplete complaints. These are situations we just don't have enough information to really conduct an investigation. And I'll give you a real quick example. We might get a complaint that community member observed a police vehicle driving what they considered way too fast. Maybe they have a time of day and a location. We look into it. We can't find any information that matches any of our officers that are working at the time. And the person who complained can't really give us enough information to narrow it down. So we might not be able to do anything with that. We get those every once in a while. And a lot of times those type of complaints, the person's not even sure if it was a Beaverton police officer, it might have been a Washington County Sheriff's deputy, or even we've gotten complaints, at least I have gotten, that it was pretty obvious that it was like a private security worker and not even a police officer. So that's an example. I think it's also really important to understand the sources of our complaints. We'll take complaints from individuals. Any department member who's aware of misconduct is required to report, and that would become a complaint as well. It's an internal complaint. Again, supervisors are required to initiate a complaint when they observe misconduct. We also take complaints from anonymous and third-party complaints. That doesn't keep us from looking into something. And then sometimes tort claims or lawsuits will generate a complaint. So someone will file a tort or a lawsuit against the city, and they won't necessarily complain to us, but if there is information in the tort that's equivalent to a complaint, we'll And these other excerpts, again, just talk more about how we're supposed to accept complaints, document them, and then we're required to notify people of the disposition of investigations. And for those of you who are not familiar, I'm going to share one thing real quick. So this is our personal complaint policy. So when we look into something and investigate it, there can be a handful of different dispositions. One of those is unfounded, which means the allegation did not occur. The next one is exonerated, which means the act occurred, but it's justified or lawful or proper. And a lot of times this happens when people who complain or initiate a complaint aren't really knowledgeable of how we do police work sometimes. And I'll give you a real simple, kind of innocuous example of that. When I was a sergeant, every once in a while, I would receive a complaint that they saw an officer turn their lights on, pull a UE, speed away for a few blocks, then turn their lights off and go back to normal driving. And to the citizen, that looked strange. The officer would do that. And when we look into things like that, we find out that, yeah, that maybe dispatch initially assigned the officer to respond code 3 somewhere, and then they got called off. So normally, if an officer was just turning their lights on and speeding around, that wouldn't be okay. But the community member has no way to know whether if that was justified or not. So a lot of times we get complaints like that, and the officer ends up getting exonerated because they did do it, but there was nothing wrong with it. Not sustained and sustained kind of are brothers and sisters. Not sustained means there's not enough evidence to sustain the complaint, and sustained means there's sufficient evidence to establish that the act occurred. And this is sort of this 51% one way or the other. It doesn't, if we sustain a complaint, it does mean we believe that it occurred. If it's not sustained, it doesn't mean necessarily that it didn't occur. It's just we don't have enough evidence to say it did occur, and we don't have enough evidence to exonerate the employee. And then sometimes the disposition of the complaint is we come across a policy issue, maybe something that's just kind of out of the ordinary and we haven't addressed in policy, so it's not necessarily a violation of our policy. And so then we go ahead and take a look at our policy, do it, see if it's changed. All right. So the next part of this report is a complaint summary specifically of disparate treatment. And you can see the ORS up here, which created the LECC, that they would receive and analyze data from law enforcement agencies to make sure that we were treating people equitably. So basically what this boils down to is each year we look at complaints we receive specifically in disparate treatment. And then we send a report to LECC. And this section of the report just summarizes the last few years. So some important things to look at on this is the number of calls for service that we had in a specific year, which in 2020 was a little low because of COVID-19, almost 70,000 calls. And that we received a total, or we conducted a total of 39 professional standards investigations, which would be, like I mentioned earlier, those would be those formal complaints. But none of those complaints were of disparate treatment. In 2019, you can see we had quite a few more calls, which is more of a typical number for the last few years. Again, we had about 40 some, or in this case, 42 professional standards investigations. And we did have one formal complaint of disparate treatment, and it was determined to be unfounded. In 2018, here's the numbers for them for that year. Again, 83,000 calls, 40 professional standards investigations. And I would say I've been involved in PS for, I guess, maybe going on 5 or 6 years, and 40 is right around what we do every year. It's been pretty consistent. Except for this year, we actually, in 2018, we had 4 disparate treatment complaints. And you can see they had varying dispositions: exonerated, unfounded, and not sustained. And then 2017 was a year where we didn't have any disparate treatment complaints at all. So you can see those last 4 years, we had a total of 5. So just the next section of this report summarizes the training that officers receive on bias-based policing. The first section is initial officer training. So about the first year, the officer receives basically 2 types of training. They receive field training, which is when they're with the coach and they're actually doing the job. That's kind of on-job training. And then the basic police academy is when they go down to Salem and attend DPSST. So during that time, they receive this type of training, which is outlined here. This next section is some of the training that you receive at the academy, the amount of hours, topic. The next part summarizes the training that all department members receive. You can see we cover our bias-based policing policy. And then this next section just talks about some of the ongoing department interactions with the community, and you can see you all are highlighted right here. What I'll say about this is I really I really think it's very important that we maintain relationships with all different community partners. And we have opportunities like to share information with MYAB and other, that's great. I really think what's important though is that the 70 to 80,000 interactions that officers have every year with people in our community is as positive as that can be. So I think the combination of communication we have and stuff like this is important, but it's also vitally important that the one-on-one interactions that police officers have with individual people who a lot of times are going through very stressful situations is also positive. This again is just some summary of some more community outreach. Okay, this next section moves into the stop data section of this report. And I will just go over this report, but like I said, Neil's going to bring in someone next month that for an expert. When we stop someone, whether it's a traffic stop or a pedestrian violation, the officers are at the end of the stop are required to enter this data into the CAD, which is, for those of you not familiar, CAD is computer aided dispatch. It's the software program that runs our dispatch. So you can see the different things they have to capture about the person on the stop. And then we report all that data to the state. And the state takes the data. There's a lot of numbers on the screen, I know, and it can look confusing, and breaks them down and analyzes it. You can see, for example, here, they look at daytime data versus nighttime data. They break it down by gender. And obviously by race as well. They also do things like they break down which statutes we stop people. The officers are required to enter that. They do the age distribution. This may look, I can make a comment on this graph. You'll see these high points are actually even aged. So this is like 30. So it's very unlikely that we stop that many more people that are exactly 30, but that is probably the officer not knowing the person's exact date and just guessing or estimating an age. So that's what these high points are. You can kind of see the distribution of ages. It kind of starts to go up from teenage years, levels off in the 20s and 30s, and then declines. For those of you that are interested in criminal justice or criminology, that's a typical line or graph of age of people that offend. That's fairly typical. People basically age out of offenses, including traffic offenses, not just convictions. It's very typical. And this is a graph that shows some dispositions, different colors for like arrest versus citation. Then on searches, the larger the circle is items were found in search. And they've got it broken down here by race. Again, hopefully the person that Neil brings in next week can provide some more in-depth information about this topic.
Keith, on pages 16 and 17 of that document, there are numbers that are highlighted in different colors. Some are in blue, red, different shades of blue and red. Can you share what those colors mean?
You know, like on this, to be honest, I'm not sure why that they highlighted certain, in this case, rows. I don't know if it's just so that you can see them. There's some significance to it. That's why I was hoping the stop data person might be able to answer that.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sorry, just I don't know the answer to that. Captain Wandell, do you happen to know the answer to that?
No, Rachel, I don't at the moment. I just haven't had a chance to get in touch with the Oregon Crime Commission, but the individual we're going to have set up for June is the person that the chief of police liaisons with on this stop data, and he's going to be the expert on it. So I'm going to defer to him on the June 10th meeting, if that's okay.
Okay, you guys also have a question in the chat right now. It says, has a police officer ever been suspended due to a complaint?
Specifically.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, Keith? I couldn't hear you.
I would just ask is the question about.
Hey, Keith, your volume's like real garbled. Maybe you can try again here in a minute, but I think the question was, as an officer, hang on, let me turn on my video there as well. Has an officer ever been suspended from a complaint? I think historically, yes. I mean, that's kind of a, that does happen. I don't have specific numbers unless Keith does, but I don't think it happens that often. But of course, yeah, we would suspend officers based upon a complaint.
Yeah, that's happened. It's fairly, in my experience, it does happen every once in a while. We can refer that to as economic discipline, and that can be everything from a 1 day off to several days off, a reduction in pay.
Teresa?
Thank you. Keith, I'm not going to bash you too hard, so just going to say that up front. I just wanted to point out next time you present to explain what ORS is. We'll just really quickly explain it because I Googled it. So ORS, it's the Oregon the Oregon Revised Statutes, which are codified laws of the state of Oregon that are published and republished, edited every 2 years. So just so everyone knows, when they're referring to ORS 2.526 dot whatever, that's referring to a codified law that has to do with whatever. So it's law enforcement and apparently has to do with a lot of other stuff. So just wanted to throw that out there because I heard you read it and I was like, I don't know what that means. So just explain next time, Keith, just little constructive criticism because I was like, let me Google it. I don't know what that means. So yeah, and I just want to also throw out there, it appears, just looking at the data, men are a bit more aggressive than women, according to the statistics, at least those that get caught. That or women are just really smart and don't get caught in crimes. I don't know. But yeah, so I just wanted to throw out there really impressive numbers with the training. I know that in my communication circles with peeps who have read this report ever so briefly, some constructive criticism that with all of the various hours on how to conduct yourself, language, obviously approaching, a male and a woman, depending on the situation. I have to say I did the Beaverton Community Academy. So just putting it out there that I did that, that the 6 hours of de-escalation, not sure if, you've heard this, probably you have, that is argued not enough, especially because, you guys are not psychiatrists and you shouldn't have to be, but sometimes it's hard to talk down crazy people or people who are struggling with this or that. And so if 6 hours was or was not enough, and I know there have been conversations about cahoots and various things and calling in people. So how do you, as an officer, an experienced one at that, oh, I got Captain Wandell popped in, so it must be a good question. How do you, as an officer, respond to questions, comments, concern around the number of hours strictly regarding de-escalation? And, I imagine, a police officer who, didn't go to college for criminal justice. Perhaps they went to college for speech and they're really great communicators. I don't know. To someone's strengths at not being the best communicator to get them there to de-escalate. And then the other part of that question is, defending the de-escalation training. So I'm sorry for that seems too much of a jumbled question, but.
No, it's Teresa's a good question, and I won't kind of dive into too much, but I wouldn't be too shocked for anyone looking at that. It's only 6 hours of training on de-escalation, because really, that's only like 6 hours of refresher training of all the training we have to accomplish per year. And like for me or Lieutenant Welch, 6 hours of training refresher on current topics is all we need, because really, as a police officer, by the time you get hired and you start working the road, you're going to learn that. Everyone's going to have to learn how to talk on the street and de-escalate. And so it's not a matter of that we haven't learned that. It's more of a matter of this is just refresher for us. So 6 hours is more than probably enough for us with everything else we have to accomplish training wise. That doesn't indicate a deficiency. It's just a refresher, because you're going to have to learn pretty quick as a police officer how to de-escalate the conversation really within the first 12 months. Otherwise, you probably are not going to make it in the job, if that helps.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think to the naked civilian eye, when you're just like, you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. So just to explain to anyone watching and who might watch later, it's like, I knew it. They said it themselves. They threw themselves under the bus. It's like, well, no, let's have the conversation and give credit where credit is due. And there are quite a few officers that, don't make the cut for one reason or another. And we're very thankful. I am of your, very scrutinous, can't think of the word right now, but vetting process to get people in. Yes, and we'll move on. I see Alex has a hand, so I'll just relinquish my time to him.
So I had a couple questions, or I guess one is more also feedback of, those charts of numbers are not user friendly at all, like that there's no key telling us what the colors mean, or if there was data showing the comparison to the general population versus the rates of stops for race and stuff, I couldn't figure it out. I'm not the best at statistics, but it feels like that should be a little bit more obvious than whoever compiled this. But my main question might just be a problem with the stop program, not you guys, but I'm not really sure. So it says the officer has to record their perception of the person's race. Is there any hard data kept on the actual race of the person, or is it all just the perception that's marked, like at the traffic stop or whatever?
As far as I'm aware, it's just the perception of the officer. They stop the person. And I'll tell you, there has been conversations about that, what that means, and what's the most accurate way to capture data. But that is a conversation that's occurred back and forth, even when they were trying to develop this statute. But for right now, yeah, it's just a perception, officer.
My question for now.
All right, any last question before we move on? All right, well, thanks so much to both of you for being here tonight, especially to you, Keith, for being a guest presenter. We appreciate that. And we'll look forward to seeing a more in-depth presentation about the stop data specifically next month.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks, Teresa, for the constructive criticism. I told myself before this I was going to make a disclaimer about jargon, and I really try hard to do that. Sometimes as police officers, we just spit stuff out because we're so used to saying it a certain way. So I appreciate it.
All right. Well, the next couple agenda items that we have on here are direct follow-ups from our conversation last month about our focus areas. And we're going to get started with the topic of conversation that kind of got some traction last month, which was about the American Rescue Plan funds that Councilor Soucie shared the information about, that Beaverton will be getting about $17.5 million in federal funds through that plan. And there were several board members who expressed an interest in providing sort of high-level recommendations of priorities for that incoming funding that folks wanted to share with the mayor and city council. And so we did get a little bit more information from the mayor's chief of staff, and that email was provided as an attachment to our main meeting email with all of the materials for our meeting today. So hopefully you guys got a chance to look at that and see what Shannon had to say. But basically what I'd like to use these next few minutes for before our next discussion is to sort of get an idea from you all, or have you all throw out some ideas of, you know, priority areas that you guys see for use of these funds. And secondarily, if we get enough ideas thrown out there, is there going to be a group of folks, can be small, that are interested in creating, or I should say forming a short-term working group to sort of formalize those recommendations to be presented at our very next board meeting, because this is something that would need to be done pretty quickly. And we do have the option of sort of doing a whiteboard type tool in this meeting, so that folks can just type them in there and we can see them as we go. So I think I'd like to do that, but if people don't want to type it in themselves, you can just go ahead and speak your ideas freely, and it'll be sort of like a brainstorm session. Manije.
Yes, I saw a question in chat from Rihanna regarding the suspension of the police officers. I didn't notice anything addressed to that. So, I mean, it's being addressed, I don't know. And I see that, I don't know, I didn't hear any answer to that question.
Captain Wandell actually addressed that question. And he did say that, you know, in the history of the Beaverton Police Department, yes, there have been instances where a police officer has been suspended, but he didn't have like a more specific answer than that.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't get that. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I have a quick question. I noticed in the report that Alexa sent that Hillsborough's getting 19 million, Washington's getting 115 million. Is there a reason why Beaverton's getting much less money? Anybody know the answer to that?
Well, I see that Hillsborough is getting close to 19 million and Washington County is getting around 115 million. So it's pretty close between Hillsborough and Beaverton, the amounts. And the county, I think, is getting more money because it's, you know, it's an entire county, and
yeah,
that would be my guess.
It's basically population based, I believe, but I don't know what the formula that the federal government used between cities and counties, but between cities, it's based on population. Hillsborough is a little bigger than Beaverton.
So I'll go ahead and put the whiteboard up. If you all haven't used this before, it's going to be, you know, a screen that's shared, and people can, if you go to the top of your, I have this written down. If you do go to the top of your screen, you'll see something that says view option, and you click on the little arrow and choose annotate. Then that will give you a whole bar of tools that you can either, you know, use the text and write something on it. You can put a star next to something you like. and you want to amplify or whatever. So if everybody wants to get in there and try something or try drawing, I can also erase it. Looks like Rihanna has made it in. Perfect. New tool for us.
You're also welcome to just share out ideas too. If you don't want to type it on the screen, that's fine.
I don't know how to do it. Where should I go to be able to write? I can see you guys are writing.
You go to the top where it says view, top of your screen where it says view options. Do you see that, Monisha?
No, I don't.
Are you on a phone or a laptop?
I am on a notepad. I mean iPad.
You're looking for an option that says annotate out of your view options at the top. But if you can't see it and putting something in the chat is easier, that's totally fine too.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't see any. Probably after this, I will go to my tech assistant, my daughter. She will. This is cool though. I like it.
Yeah, I lost my pencil. I can find the pencil. I promise you, I can find the pencil.
Are people having technical difficulties or just thinking about what they're going to write? Alexis, can the counselor participate or no?
I get my say in another venue, so I won't try to influence your choices here. I will say though that we had one bit of news today, which is that our federal lobbyist, the city employs a lobbying firm that is on the ground in Washington, D.C. And they sent us an update today. Apparently the Treasury Department has published the guidance for how these monies are supposed to be categorized by all the local jurisdictions. They're very broad categories, and so there are many, many things that we can fund with this money. But I mentioned that to emphasize that the rules for how to use the money are just now being published. So we'll be taking everybody's ideas and matching them up against those rules and against our own ideas and our own needs. So for instance, one of the categories of spending that is explicitly authorized by the federal government is to backfill for revenues that the city did not receive because of the COVID pandemic. So there were a number of things that fit into that category. For instance, we did not receive as much money from the lodging taxes at our hotels as we would have normally, because hotel stays were, of course, severely impacted by the lack of travel from the pandemic. There were a number of other categories of revenue that the city normally receives that were reduced during the pandemic. And so we may use some of our money just to do backfill on that because it's explicitly authorized. But I know we are planning to save some of it aside for programmatic uses like the ones you're talking about here and that have been described in Walton Clark's memo. So keep thinking up ideas.
All right, probably just a couple more minutes for any other ideas to get thrown out there.
I have a question about this. May I say?
Go for it.
Okay, last meeting we were on groups, like kind of subcommittees talking about something like this. Like I thought we we could work on those groups and find out what we think about using this money for.
Yeah, so we wanted to do kind of we felt like we sort of already did that for the topics that we're kind of diving deeper in today. So we wanted to do kind of a whole group think tank today. And then with the ideas that were brainstormed in that process, to provide the option for folks to join like a very small working group for like the next month to kind of bring back a more formal proposal of recommendations, which is what I'd like to now offer now that we have a few more ideas on the board that people have thrown out there. Are there, 2 to 4 people or so who are really interested in taking some of these ideas, maybe brainstorming some more and coming back to our next board meeting with a more formal recommendation of priorities for those funds that are coming in. I know Monije has mentioned an interest in that, and I'm wondering if there are any other folks who would be interested in being a part of that process.
Well, I was thinking about that money that is coming in. The last meeting we had, I think Brandon Ahmed was in my group, and we were talking about people that is needing help. I see here more like investing in projects for the city, investing for the parks and things like that. My understanding was the last time that we want to work more in what is more urgent, especially for the people who has lost business, has lost jobs. How can we help? And I'm thinking part of that money, it might be invested in that, trying to figure it out, how to help the community who needs that. I don't know, I might be mistaken, or I heard in a different way, I don't know. So that's what I needed, if someone can actually explain me. Is this something different from last month? This money that is coming in is the same money we were explained? Sometimes yes. I have the bad feeling that we are not connected totally on what we're supposed to be doing right now.
The funds that we're talking about are the same funds that we were talking about last month. It's from the American Rescue Plan funds of about 17 million that have specifically been designated to Beaverton. And so that is what we're talking about. Just brainstorming a lot of different priorities that we think are important for those funds to be used toward.
Because if I read the increasing community gardens, increasing buildings, my mind is going through a different way. My mind is going to restart the economy, restart what we went through because of COVID. So
that's totally fine. Just add those ideas on there. There's not a bad idea here. We're just brainstorming a lot of different ideas. If you think that's an important priority, absolutely add that to this whiteboard. It doesn't mean that, we're only gonna emphasize one idea over another. That's not what this is. This is really just about getting all those ideas out there at once.
I do understand that part, but in my way, the way I see everything that is there is more dedicated to the city, creating better places or things like that, which I think right now we need in somehow put some of that money on helping the community, the people who need help. We were talking about people who's going to be evicted, people who doesn't have jobs, or somehow helping, including the small business people who has not been able to progress during the 2020. So I don't know. I'm just confused, I guess. I'm not understanding, maybe. It concerns me that I had a different thought about it, and I want to be I want to be correct in what we're doing and what we want to do.
Well, I'll direct you right now to the chat. Councilor Soucie did post in the chat exactly what spending categories are included in these funds, as described by the city's lobbyist, I believe. So take a look at that, and that might be helpful.
Well, I think though that it's also fair to say that, you know, the categories are broad and they cover a lot of territory. And I think what we'll probably end up with in terms of allocation of the money is a combination of some sort of immediate, addressing immediate needs, and some investing in things that are going to provide longer term benefit to people. And how to balance those is going to be the art of the challenge here. If we put all of our money into addressing short-term needs, then there's no long-term benefit. If we put all of our money into long-term benefit, there's no short-term benefit, no short-term aid. So we're gonna find a balance there. And so all of your ideas on either type of allocation of the money are really helpful to us.
Yeah, I do understand that money is not going to be only, I'm not saying that the whole money will go on these communities that they need help as families or something. But I think it's right now, for me, that's very, very important because things start coming back a little bit as normal. And I think we need to focus on that and how we're going to help the community. I mean, at least me personally, I would like to be involved in something like that.
So Monica, are you saying you would like to be a part of the working group?
Pardon?
Would you like to be a part of that working group that helps prepare a more formal proposal of recommendations for next month?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Brandon wasn't there too, so. And he got some ideas that I really like it. And I thought I was going to continue this month as a group.
Well, the working group would be outside of our meeting time. Okay. Would probably meet together once outside of our working time between now and our next board meeting. So are you interested in that?
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I just got to get more comfortable. So, yeah.
Okay, is there anyone else who's interested in joining Manije and Monica for that process?
And like more about like how they will meet, how many times, how like timing for the meetings, the work group.
It will be up to you guys. This is not supposed to be like a big intensive thing, you know, maybe meet once. You guys can decide when you meet, how long you meet. It's sort of defined by the people who want to be a part of it. Are you interested in that, Ahmed?
Honestly, I tried to squeeze my schedule. I don't know, honestly. I need to know more information about it, like how much time I need to spend on that.
So I will just jump in here with a suggestion, not different than what Rachel said, but just to say that I think the main limiting factor is just time by which these would still be relevant recommendations. So my proposal as your staff liaison who will need to set up your subcommittee meeting and notice it to the public would be that you choose to meet once between now and June, and that in that meeting you draft some recommendations that are pretty high level and don't have like dollars attached to them or anything like that, but just are sort of, these are our priorities that we would recommend. And then you bring we together bring a clean draft of those recommendations back to the June meeting for the whole board to approve to send on to council. And we could work with whoever is in that group to decide the exact day and time for the subcommittee meeting, or subgroup meeting, but that it would just maybe be one meeting for, I don't know, an hour and a half.
The city will be with us, like to coordinate meetings and send like the Zoom link, all those things, or we need to take a step to do that.
No, I would help you all do that because it would be something where you'd be discussing board business. So I would need to put up the agenda in case any members of the public needed to join. So I would coordinate it just like our night market meetings or whatever.
Yeah, so you're going to give us like kind of doodle pool to see which date has the more kind of more people who want to attend the meeting. So because sometimes one choice or two, it doesn't work for everyone. If we have a few that we can see, because I really want to be involved in that, and I don't want to miss it.
Me too. So
Hello, Brandon. Are you going to be with us? I'm volunteering you, Brandon.
He did say in the chat that
Yeah,
he was
he's
volunteering.
I saw that.
Sorry, I have screaming babies, so I didn't want to expose everybody to that. But yeah, I'm happy to participate and be present in that group discussion. And
Okay, I will be open at the time and day you set up, because I am more free time, and I know, Brandon, you're very busy. So
yeah, I mean, we're all busy, right? Like the pandemic has stretched us all thin. The noon hour works really good, I think, for most people. I mean, I know it's a little bit of a sacrifice, but just off the top of my head, that's what I'm thinking. But
okay.
we could figure it out with an email or a survey.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm really interested in doing that. So
all right. It looks like, okay, so just to recap, looks like we have Monica, Monije, Ahmed, Brandon, and Alex, depending on time, interested in that working group. And Alexis will help coordinate that. I know we are well over our time for this agenda item. I'd like to ask Teresa, would you like to move forward with your agenda item or postpone to next meeting? Either's up to you.
Okay, I wouldn't mind postponing to next meeting. It was attached in the email that was sent to all of us. I just want to very briefly read what's on there. I was graciously reminded that there is more than one known mutual aid group within the city of Beaverton. So as listed on there, there is the Beaverton West Portland group, but there's also RISE. So RISE Beaverton also does a ton of mutual aid work, mostly specific to undocumented people, also within the low income groups of our community members. So mutual aid is a voluntary reciprocal exchange of resources, services for mutual benefit within a community. Mutual aid projects are a form of participation in which people take responsibility for caring for one another and changing community conditions. The goal is to have the Diversity Advisory Board, DAB, inspire, increase, and promote mutual aid within the city of Beaverton. So DAB, we can see this as an initiative, as a priority that has the potential to benefit public engagement, housing and livability, economic empowerment, and community building. So some bullet points that I put just to share with everyone that you can read later. It was once again in the email attachment that Alexa sent out, that it's about getting people together in the community to provide materials to support one another. It doesn't necessarily have to be money. It can be, you know, books for someone's child, socks, food items, whatever, quarters to do laundry. It's about community members helping community members, sharing things rather than hoarding them. And there's a nice little picture on the back. It's like a visual aid of what mutual aid is. You can take a look at that. So I would love to have more conversations with people offline if that is something people want to do. But due to time, it looks like we will discuss this later. For better or for worse, it's okay. There's always additional time for discussions on mutual aid and to discuss it further. But I, in my own little way, in making Beaverton better one person at a time, will just interact with some of people in my contacts and network to see the level of interest in getting a jump start on that project for mutual aid. So keep that in your mind. We'll follow up with this next month, Rachel. And with that, I think we're ready just to stay on track to move on to the next agenda item.
Thanks, Teresa. I just really think that because it was something that was discussed a lot as a topic of interest last meeting, I think it deserves a more thorough conversation. And I know we have a pretty timely request for a letter of support that I wanted to make sure we got to during this meeting from THPRD. So I'm just gonna take a quick temperature check. Thumbs up if you feel like, you know, it's important that we support a letter support a letter of support in general. Don't necessarily have to sign off on this specific template they provide right now, or thumbs down like, no, you don't want to do it. I just want to make sure that we're using our time wisely. Okay, cool. Looks like it's important to people. Alexis, is there any way that you could get this letter up on the screen just so we can take a look at it? Folks might not have had a chance to see it before our meeting because it went out today. And for anyone who wasn't here at the beginning of our meeting during public comment, Janine Rustad from THPRD did present 3 projects that THPRD is requesting for federal funding. And they've asked us for a letter of support for those projects. And we are now seeing the template that they provided for us.
I already read it. Like, I have a question. If we are like having our organization want to do that too, that's okay?
What do you mean?
Like, example, the Arabic House in Oregon want to support them and send a letter. So can we use this template too, or like it's just for our committee?
I can put my email address in the chat and I can send you a template. We appreciate any support we can get.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we signing, are we accepting this, all of us, and it's gonna be sent as a group, not individually, is it? It will come from that.
This letter is intended to come from the Diversity Advisory Board as a group.
Okay, absolutely, that's what I thought, okay. Not individually, so we always do this support together as a group.
Maybe you guys can educate me a little bit. I should probably turn on my video. I'm not super familiar with the neighborhoods that are being impacted by this directly. My vague recollection is that they're not necessarily the most diverse Beaverton neighborhoods, but again, not super familiar. Does anyone have insight on that? Because I'm wondering how this applies to the DAB specifically.
You want me to jump in again?
Go for it, Janine.
Hi, Janine Rustad, the planning manager for THPRD again. And the first project area, the Beaverton Creek Trail, which runs from the Nature Center and the West Side Trail to Southwest Hawken, we've actually received some federal grants, and one of the criteria for federal grants is typically the diversity of the neighborhood. The West Side Trail project is south of Highway 26, and we're actually designing the bridge over the highway, and we did about a mile and a half buffer, and had it's called streetlight data, and found that it does serve diverse populations and populations that are living below the poverty level. The Waterhouse Trail, yeah, that is more, it's a less diverse neighborhood, but that is our third priority. These are listed in order of priority for us.
I can add one additional bit of information. The city has signed on to offer support to THPRD, at least for the first one. I don't know if it's for all three, Janine. You may know more than I do on that one, but I did double check with the mayor that our support has been supplied to this. You know, as Janine said at the beginning, these applications for support for funds from the federal delegation are competitive between jurisdictions, but Beaverton and THPRD try to partner up occasionally for support for things like this.
Yeah, and that's why from the city, we asked only for the Beaverton one. And feel free to just use this template. And if you want to if you wanted to focus on just on Beaverton Creek Trail, we would be more than happy with that. Yeah, and we supported the city project.
All right, so at this point, how do folks feel about providing support for all three of the projects versus just one or two? I'll take a temperature check on the thumbs up or thumbs down on that part, because I think that isn't important. So thumbs up is all three projects. Whoa. Do I have any thumbs down on supporting all three projects? I don't see any. Does everybody feel okay with the letter as it was written? Alexis will fill in the highlighted parts, which just say the name of our organization and a description of what we do and what we are. All right. Do we have enough to vote for this, Alexis, at this point? We're still good? Okay, cool. Then I'm gonna ask for someone to make a motion to approve of this letter of support to go for THPRD.
I motion that.
Okay, Ahmed, second, please.
Manager.
Okay, Manije, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, I will take silence as approval. All right, thanks everyone. And thank you, Janine, for being here tonight to talk us through those projects that you all are pursuing.
Thank you. Your support is definitely really appreciated, and fingers crossed. And as I put in the chat, we will let you know the outcome.
Great, thank you. All right. Guess we'll jump back on track with our agenda. Alexis, did you want to share a little bit of Beaverton Night Market planning update, or is there a committee for that?
I can share a couple of highlights along with my staff liaison announcements, and then if anybody from the committee wants to add, please feel free to do so. I sent you all announcements. I'm going to share screen just so we can see them together as we go through them quickly. The first thing is that the COVID relief grants for night market vendors, which you all had advised on the process for, have been, the applications have been closed and award letters are going out today or tomorrow. The city got a total of 39 applications from former night market vendors, and 33 of those were eligible for the grant. And so it's going to be about a $1,500 grant for each one of those folks. So that we were really happy with that outcome. And you can see the broad spread of vendors. Somebody had asked on this committee around distribution of grants and demographics. So we added that information in there that you can see. In terms of the night market planning, one big piece that has happened in the last little while is that we've made the decision to collaborate with the Chalk Art Festival, which is being planned for that same weekend in August. But we've started to work together. They were planning to do some of their festival in the same area that we are going to do the night market. And so we've started coordinating so that those events can be sort of presented together and in collaboration. So that's an exciting additional activity that will be going on during the event and is a COVID-safe addition to the market. So we're really excited about the collaboration and all of the conversations that we've had, and also just being able to provide something else that's engaging in the space, but is safe during this time. Wanted to remind folks that vendor applications are still open. They're open till June 1st. When I looked earlier today, it looked like we had 50 some applications, some from former vendors and some new folks, but we could really still use your help in spreading the word that those applications are open now until June 1st. And of course, that's on the website. I'll pause there. Does anybody from the committee want to say anything else about night market updates?
Okay, we have another, I don't know, you say you have like 50 applications, so we still needed to, because tomorrow I have a space for another announcement. So should I keep doing it?
Applications are open till June 1st. So any and all outlets are certainly welcome. We, as always, right, there will be a selection process. So not everyone will have a space at the market, but we want, and then we know you all want, as much diversity as possible within that applicant pool. So I would say the ask is definitely for you all to still push the information out in as many places as possible.
Yeah, what I meant was, do I still do the promotion?
Yeah.
Okay, because we have open for that tomorrow.
That'd be great.
Okay. So we've been doing really good. I feel personally, I have different places that I put the announcement for vendors. So I just need to know if we can continue doing that. So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments or updates from the committee on night market stuff? All right. Well, the other things I just also got an announcement today about a vaccine clinic that Washington County is hosting tomorrow at the Hillsborough Senior Center. So I wanted to share that information with you all. They are hosting periodic clinics and have a sign up page that this link gets you to, where they've been opening up periodically, but they're also starting to do some walk-in vaccines. So please spread the word about that as well. And then city update from public information team. As you all know, just based on when the DAB meeting falls during the month, you already know that there was a town hall about the 5th Street changes that are happening. And so just a reminder that the video from that town hall is available up on the website that's in this link here. Councilor Soucie did the city manager recruitment announcement, but just here you'll find that date and time this Thursday at 6 p.m. For the public virtual event, and also an opportunity to submit questions if you haven't done that already. So that information is there. And then the reminder that the tax site that we're hosting at the community center is the services have been extended since the tax deadline was extended. And so you'll find information there about that, still by appointment only. And there's going to be a brief pause in the services for about a week between the deadline on the 17th, or about 10 days between the deadline on the 17th, May 17th, and then on May 27th, they're going to reopen for the rest of the period of time through July 15th. So still, if you know folks that need tax help that are lower income, there are options. And then city council meetings are moving to 6 p.m. in general. There's a few variations from that, but generally they're moving to 6 p.m. from 6:30. So wanted folks to know about that.
And I predict that will be made permanent eventually.
Those were my announcements. So I'll pass it back to you, Rachel, or anybody else who wants to make an announcement.
Thanks, Alexis. Yeah, does anybody else have any updates or announcements they want to make before we head out of here tonight?
Just wanted, because at the beginning of the month of Ramadan, I announced that we're going to fast. So either on Wednesday or Thursday, we're going to celebrate the end of Ramadan. And I wanted to congratulate all who could fast the whole days, or every day, or some of it. So it's a very big celebration for all Muslims in the world, and congratulate everyone. And thank you all. And also I wanted to thank the council and the kind of city council, the mayor and the councils that recognized the Ramadan as this month as the month of Ramadan, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, one other thing I will just add really quick, because he has said he's okay with me sharing, is that Raman had a heart attack a couple weeks ago and had open heart surgery. And he is now home recovering. And he was very sorry he couldn't be here tonight, but I thought that you all might want to know that if you wanted to send him a message of support. He seems in good spirits, but certainly a big life event. And I let him know that we were sending our best wishes for his recovery, but if you'd like to do that as well, I'll go ahead and put his email in the chat, and look forward to seeing him again next month.
Thank you for giving us that report. I'm glad that he is home safe. And right, it's true. How life is delicate.
Thanks for sharing that, Alexis. All right, with that, thanks everyone for being here for our meeting tonight. It's great to see you all. And until next month, take care.
Thank you all.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.
For the vaccine appointment with our community page.